All right, kiddos, we're going to work on scatter plots this week. And if you were on the Zoom with me, you've already seen a little preview of scatter plots, and you know that they really do look like a scattered bunch of dots, and you're really not supposed to connect the dots. Scatter plots are used to see if there's a relationship between two sets of data. Sometimes you can tell easily if they have a relationship and a pattern or a trend that you start to see, and other times you're not so sure until you can really see the whole scatter plot put together. So for the first example problem that I'm going to walk you through, it's about shopping at the mall. And it says that Samantha interviewed shoppers at a mall, and she asked about how many hours they had been at the mall and then how much money they had spent. And she recorded their responses in this table. And so if you look at it, you can see some people have been at the mall 2 hours and spent $10, but other people have been at the mall 2 hours and spent more money. So she's really looking to see, is there a relationship between how long you're at the mall and how much money you end up spending? So if you want to make a scatter plot of that data, then you're going to have to graph on a coordinate plane. Okay, so they've got the coordinate plane pretty much set up for you over here. They haven't labeled the X and the Y axis or any of that yet. So you have to do that on your own, and they step you through it right here. Okay, so first of all, in step 1, they tell you to write a title above the graph. Well, the title is spending at the mall for the data, so let's just keep it the same for the graph. Spending at the mall. And then they say write ordered pairs that relate the amount of time to the amount of money. So time is listed first and money second. So if you want to, start thinking about this as your X and this is your Y. When we go to graph and to put it on the coordinate plane, think of it like that. So for 2 hours of time, this first person spent $10. And for 6 hours at the mall, the next person spent $35. And for 3 hours at the mall, $17. 1 hour, $10. 2 hours, $15. Another 2-hour person, but $18. 5 hours, $25. 4 hours, $20. 1 hour at the mall, $5. And 3 hours at the mall, $15. So then let's actually make the graph. Choose a scale that is appropriate for the data on each axis and label each axis. All right, so let's make the x-axis amount of time, and time goes anywhere from 1 hour up to 6 hours is the greatest amount of time that we're given in this data. So let's call the x-axis amount of time. And let's say this is obviously the origin 0 hours, then 1 hour, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. As long as we go to 6, we know our graph is going to be big enough. And then for the y-axis, that's going to be amount of money. So we'll label it amount of money. And for this, we need to go from, see, the least amount of money spent is $5. And the most is 35. So I'm hoping if we count by fives, we can make this work on this. Let's say that's 0. Let's say this is $5. The next line is going to be 10. And then we'll just keep counting by fives. 15, 20, 25, 30, and 35. Perfect. That's the top of our graph up here. So this should work perfectly. So now that we've labeled and done everything on the X and Y axis, since the data for the X coordinates are all less than 10, use, so it was guiding us through here. It was helping you decide where you were going to put each of these and what kind of scale you were going to make it. So since the data for the X coordinates are all less than 10, use ones. I would just count by ones for the x-axis. Just count by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what we did. And since most of the data for the y coordinates are multiples of 5, then we can use 5s for the y-axis, so count by 5s for that scale, which we did. And now lastly, they just want you to graph all the ordered pairs and then stand back and look at this scatter plot and see what you notice. Look for a relationship or some sort of pattern in the dots, but don't connect the dots, okay? So first off, let's graph 2, 10. So starting at the origin, remember we go along the x-axis first and then up along the y-axis second. So 2, 10. And then our next point is 6, 35. Okay, put a little dot there. And then 3, 17, which we're just going to make 17 between like the 15 and the 20. Okay. And then 1, 10. 2, 15. 2, 18 is our next point. Again, we got to go between the 15 and the 20 for 18. And then 5, 25. 5 hours, $25. Got that. And then 4, 20. And then 1 hour, $5. And then 3 hours, $15. Okay, so we've just created our first scatter plot, and you start to see there's just a scattering of dots, but if you really look, do you see a relationship here? Do you kind of see a pattern? I'm seeing that as the time increases, as you move this way on the graph, you notice that your dots keep getting higher and higher. They keep moving higher along the y-axis. So as you move away from the origin, the dots keep getting higher. So it looks like as you spend more time at the mall, you spend more money, which makes sense if you think about it, that there's a relationship. The longer you're at the mall, the more you're likely to spend, whether it's on clothing or you've just been walking around so long. You go to the food court, you sit down, you get a drink, you get lunch, you get something to eat and recharge your energy, and you might even stay and shop even longer after that, so you spend even more money. So this is an example of a scatter plot that does show a relationship, a pattern between how much time you spend and how much money you spend when you're at the mall. Not all scatter plots will show a pattern like this. Sometimes you realize there's really no pattern and your dots are kind of all over the place. But a scatter plot is a really cool way to show that. And it's just one more way to show data and try to organize your thinking, okay? So now you can get going trying the rest of the practice problems on scatter plots. Good luck.